and welcome to Knitting on the Farm. My name is Angela and this is my podcast where I share all the crafty things that I get up to. I share some of our life on the farm, and at the moment I'm also sharing some of the gardening that I'm doing, and I hope you enjoy what you see. I enjoy doing the podcast. So just by way of introduction, I can tell you where all you can find me. I am found on Instagram as Knitting on the Farm with underscores in between each word. I'm also found on Ravelry as Knitting on the Farm, which is all one word. And I also set up a Ravelry group, which is Knitting on the Farm, which is all one word, and then podcast group. And I also have an email, which is knittingonthefarm@gmail.com, in case anybody wants to get in contact with me privately. And you can also direct message me on Instagram, and I'm usually on Instagram most days, and that would be where I would post some photos of things that are going on from day to day. So we'll get that out of the road, and I'll talk to you a wee bit just about the make-alongs that we are having. So if you've been watching the podcast, you'll know that I have been doing a shared make-along with Kaz from The Wee So-and-So, and I have been hosting the finished object and chatter thread for the garment section, and she has been doing the same for the accessories section. She is also doing a make along which she calls Jumper Joy Cal. So if you have any sweaters or jumpers, cardigans, etc. entered in it, pop over and put them into the finished object thread here, and it'll give you a double dip then for the prizes. I had up that it was finishing on the 30th of June, but because my podcast is near the end of June and the next one will be into July, I will close the thread and I'll draw the prizes just before a podcast, and then I'll be fit to announce the winners. So I'm going to have a prize for both threads. The prize for the finished object thread is going to be some yarn. I just don't have it here with me at the moment. I know it is going to be a chunky yarn, and there definitely will be enough for knitting a hat or a beret, a cowl, or some mitts or some gloves, even some leg warmers. So I'll be posting that out for the finished object thread. And then for the chatter thread, I am going to give the winner a choice of a pattern from Ellie of Craft House Magic. She has some lovely patterns. She has nice Christmas ones, and she has also a lovely beret and other sock patterns, which are very well written and very easy to follow. So we'll sort that out then when I get the winner for the chatter thread. So that is the make-alongs. The other thing I talked about in my last podcast was the number of subscribers. And I just want to thank you very much for subscribing to the podcast. And I did say if I had over 500 subscribers that I would do a giveaway. And we've just made it over 500. And for anybody that has recently subscribed, thank you very much. I never expected to have very many subscribers or viewers. This is something I just started because I wanted to document my crafting, and if anybody watched and was interested, well, fair play, and if they weren't, that was okay too. So I really appreciate everybody that has subscribed and has left comments. So for my next podcast, I'll draw a winner just before, and I'm keeping it to YouTube this time. And if you left a comment down below, and I'm going to ask the question, what accessory or garment do you like to knit? The most? For me, I quite like knitting socks, and I'm really on a sock fetish at the moment, as you'll see. So they would be my main thing from I've learned to knit them, but I do need to move on to other things because it's getting a bit crazy, the number of socks I have, and when I'll ever get them all worn, never mind worn out. But I think anybody that knits socks can say the same. So you leave a comment just about what your favourite item is to knit, and I will draw for that prize before the next podcast. And I haven't got a prize organised yet, but I will think of something, and we'll get that sorted. So I think that's everything by a way of the introduction to the podcast today. And yeah, we'll do a general chit chat at the end as usual, but I think for now move into the finished things. And there's nothing really very much finished, because I finished up everything for the last podcast, and then I have taken a cast on spell, so nothing's finished, and I have a couple of larger garments on, so that's my excuse. I was on Zoom last night, and we were talking about the podcasting, and we were saying that you just make a manic effort to try and have something finished to show on the podcast, but I didn't make it. I only have 1 or 2 things finished, but anyway, you'll get to see something finished the next time. It was something worth looking forward to. So the first thing that I did was I had some pins, and they were on a knitting bag, and I didn't often maybe use it, and I thought I would put them onto a little bit of cross stitch Ada. It was a sewn border, and I had these wooden dowel displays from I don't know how long ago. So this little pin here is one that was designed for the NHS here in the UK, because of the COVID situation, and also it's a robin, so I thought it would be nice just to have one of those for what the country and what the NH staff has went through. This one here just says sock knitter. What's the best way to hold it? This one here then is knit revert. Yeah, knit revert. This one here I ordered when I was ordering some wool from Wild and Woolly some time ago, and I think I maybe needed to make up for postage or something, and it just says never underestimate the power of a knitter. This one here then is from my friend Laura. It was in a swap a couple of years ago, an advent swap. Something tells me I've talked about these before, but maybe I just was going over what I was going to say in my head. And then this here is from Mrs. Moog on Instagram. She designs bags. I think I showed you one of her bags before, and this was a little brooch she made, so I thought I would put it on the bottom. So I'm going to hang that on the wall just in front of my desk, and maybe add some pins to it as time goes on. So that was one of the not really very complicated thing to finish, but it is finished. It needs an iron, that's the only thing. The other thing then that I have finished was the socks that I've been knitting for Andrew, and I showed these on the last podcast and eventually got them finished. So Sunday past was Father's Day here in the United Kingdom, and I thought I would gift him these for Father's Day. So the yarn was dyed by Honeybee Knits, and my friend Jessica gave it to me last year when we met in Munich. Jessica's living in Germany and we were in Austria, so we had the opportunity to meet up and have lunch, and she gifted me this, and I thought it's special and I would gift it on to Andrew. So as I said about the sock before, I don't want to bore you, but in case you forget, it's just a plain vanilla sock, and I used the toe from So Sweet Violet. It was in her Mabel socks pattern, and I used her, I don't want to talk behind the sock, I used her heel as well, and it worked really well with sort of the striping effect in the yarn. These are the first pair then that I have knit on 2mm needles, and I'm really pleased with the texture. When I knit the cuff on 2mm, it was too tight, so I changed to 2.25 for the cuff. I knit one round in here, which obviously if there was a pattern it would be knit. I did 25 rows of 1 by 1 knit through the back of the loop for the cuff, and then knit one round, and then I cast off with the yarn over cast off, and I cast off these ones. I cast off on 2.25, but I really need to cast them off on the 2mm, just to make them a wee bit neater. So I do have the 2 socks. I kept the other one because I wanted to show you just the way I packed them to present them. I downloaded these little cuffs from Google, and I thought they were nice. I have Christmas ones as well, and they're just a nice way to gift a pair of socks. So it just, what does it say? Knit with love. So I thought I would show you that one. Also, I just measured, because the sock was knit entirely from the one yarn. I thought I would measure how much I had left after the 25 cuff, the 64 leg, and then the 64 foot and the beanie toe, and I had 28 grams left. That's the label. Melissa isn't dyeing any yarn at the moment, so you'll not be able to get it. I don't think she's even maybe her shop up for anything that's left, but I had 28 grams left, and I think, you know, I'll be able to knit a short pair of socks using contrasts, and obviously I would have enough for another pair if I had to use contrasts in these ones. So that's my only other finished object, and it's my only knitting finished object. That's the pattern just that I got the instructions for the heel and the toe from. It's a paid for pattern from Ravelry, and I'm sure everybody knows who Jules is of So Sweet Violet. I haven't actually knit the cable of this pattern yet, so that's needs to be on my to-do list at some stage. So yes, that's the only finished knitting object that I have. So we'll move on then to what I have on the needles, and I have a few projects. So the first one I said I may take a notion of doing this after my last podcast, and I did. I've knit it before, and it's the summer t-shirt. It's a paid for pattern again, and I downloaded it from Ravelry. It's designed by Vera Sanon, and it was in the Sun Fun Living. It must have been a magazine of some sort. So it's a very simple pattern, top down. It has this V lacy part on the front, which you can do. It gives you the options of doing a deep V or a less noticeable V. It has a picot finish on the sleeves, and it also gives you the option for doing a tailored fit on the waist, or just keeping it as a sweater the whole way down without any fitting. So it's a really good fit. I've knit it before, I like it, and there was no problem to knit it again. So I didn't want to buy any yarn for it, so I looked in my stash, and I had some Rowan Lima, I'm not sure if this is actually discontinued or not. I know when I purchased it from a shop in England, they said this, I'm not sure whether it was this colour's discontinued, whether it's the particular category. I don't know, and I didn't check before I came on, but it's a nice chained yarn. Don't know, can you see? Maybe you can see better that way. So it's really nice. It's lovely to knit with. It's lovely and soft. It's 80% wool, and I love the colour of it. It's just the colourway was just 891. The girl, it was in the sale in the shop, so it was pretty inexpensive. So I'm almost ready to separate for the sleeves. I thought I maybe would get that far today, but I didn't get anything done this morning. So you can see the outline of the V there. I think it has nice just a simple yarn over increase on the sleeves, and then the end of the sleeve will obviously then be finished with a picot edging. It's not a picot bind off, it's I'm not sure what you call it, but it's where you do the yarn over and then you make a little hem. So the pattern calls for just if you can see it there, it's just a rib collar to it, or a rib neckline. I have knitted in the past just with the a roll neck, and I really like that, and just find it maybe a wee bit younger looking, I'm not sure. So I think I'll do that again this time. So I will. So that's the summer t-shirt by Vera Salmon, and I'm hoping to work on it over the weekend. The colour's coming up pretty true, and I do like the chained effect in the yarn. I've never knit with that before, and it's lovely and soft, and I'm well pleased with the stitch definition. I'll put some photographs in. I'll put it on the mannequin, and I'll put some photographs in because it's really hard to show. But it is nice and warm, so I'd be fit to wear that coming into the autumn time. And I'm really pleased that I'm able to use up the yarn that I had in stash. So that has been a fair wee bit of work. It has taken a wee bit of time to do it. And then of course, if it's warm outside, it's warm on your knee, and you don't just do as much. Excuse me. So yes, that's the summer t-shirt. Then, as I talked about in the last podcast, the Crazy Sock Lady started her summer sock camp, and I wanted to join in with that. So I have cast on 2 pairs of socks for it, and I have another pair that I want to cast on. So the first pair I've cast on are the Lottie socks, which were in the 52 Weeks of Socks book that I purchased, and that's them. If you can see, that's them there. So I just it's a bit hard to hold and hide the pattern, but I just printed it, copied it out to keep the book pristine. And then I don't know whether anybody else does this or not, but I'm only starting to use charts, and with my eyesight I find it hard just sort of going back and forward. So I don't really want to share it with you, but I print out a grid, just I do an Excel spreadsheet, and obviously reverse the way the chart is, because I'm reading from left to right now, and the charts are always from right to left. So I just do out a spreadsheet like that, and then it's easy to follow. This pattern is a four row repeat. It's not difficult, but you need to have your wits about you. It's most certainly not a zoom chitter chatter pattern, because the two zooms we've had have definitely been chitter, and I'll talk about that towards the end. But this is the pattern. I just put it on the heel, but I just put it onto the blockers to let you see. This yarn then is the leftover that I had from my floozy cardigan. It's beautiful. It's knitting up into a really nice sturdy pair of socks, you know, sort of good trainer shoe winter socks. And it's knit then for left sock and right sock, and it has this lovely lattice down the side. They have a couple of stitches in it that I had never done before, this cluster, and then obviously you need a cable needle for the little bit of cabling down the side here. This cabling, it's done every other row, and normally any cabling I have done has been maybe every fourth row, so it took a wee bit of getting used to, but I do really like it. And again, I'm knitting them on my 2mm needles, and just did the cuff the same as Andrew's socks, did it on the 2.25, and I've increased now to, my socks are going to always be the 25 row rib. It just seems to be a better fit. So yeah, that's the Lottie sock then from the Lena 52 weeks of socks, and I do have plenty of the wool left, so I'll definitely not run short. I can't decide, you can maybe help me. That's the two colours I had. I did the two stripes in the green. I was going to use the pink. I am contemplating, should I do the toe in the pink on this sock, and on my other sock then do the pink for the stripe and do the green for the toe? What do you think? Or is that too mismatch? I don't know. It's something I maybe would like to, I would like to try, because I can imagine these socks are, just because they're nice and firm, and this yarn definitely feels a heavier 4-ply than what I would be used knitting with. I can imagine these being socks for sitting on top of the bed, you know, knitting in the evening time when Andrew goes out to milk and I'm in the house myself. I always pop down to bed, and I can imagine these being used for that. So that way I would get seeing the two colours, and the two colours obviously were in my cardigan. So leave a comment, let me know what you think, that would be good. And I'll not be too far forward with them, so I'll not miss the comments. So that's the Lottie socks from the 52 weeks. Yeah, 52 weeks of socks book. Then my second pair of socks for the summer sock camp then, I think I had these started last time. They are knit in the narrow boat colorway from my very good friend, another friend on Instagram, Di from Elm Tree Yarns. And it's a superwash 75-25 base, and you get 425 meters per 100 grams, and it's lovely. I just love how it's knitting up. I just love the wee stripes in it. I had the contrast left over from one of the sock clubs from Sherry Iris from last year, and I did the cast on plus the knit row and one of the rib rows. So the first 2 rows I did in it, and I think it really lifts it. I don't have enough probably to do the heel and the toe, but I'm most certainly going to do the toe in the yellow. It's a nice yellow speckle. There's actually maybe black in it if you can see. Oh, see. And wee bits of white, yeah, it's maybe picking it up. So it's really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing the toe in this. I don't know whether I might actually do a stripe coming into the toe just gradually. I'll see if I'm lazy or not. So yeah, that's how far I am in the first sock. So it'll definitely be finished. Definitely finished this weekend, and the rib of the, or sorry, the cuff of the next one, I definitely want to have done. The pattern for it then is called Wish You Were Here, and I came across this pattern from Cherie of Ollie and Bella podcast, was knitting her daughter some socks, and I really liked it because it just was a simple pattern. As you know, I don't like knitting just plain socks. I like to have something to keep me interested, and that was why I chose a pattern. You can't really see it actually in the sock. That was what we were talking about, but it is there. You'll probably see it better. See it better when I'm wearing it. At least it has kept me interested, so that's the main thing. So this is the pattern. I think it was a free pattern actually. Again, it's a left and right sock. And it's really nice. The pattern's beautiful. It's really well written for a free pattern. So it is. The instructions are so clear, and again, it's a 6-row repeat, but half of those are just knit, so it's not too hard to remember. So that is my summer camp socks. And I don't know whether I'll even enter them in the make or the knit along, but I've enjoyed joining in. I've enjoyed listening to Kay's live chats that she has done on Instagram. I have enjoyed them. So that's the 2 pair of socks then that I've been working on. Then the last time I discussed the Mano or Mano sweater, and I said that I had the yarn left over from the shawl that I had made, and I thought it was a good way of using it up. So I ordered the extra to do that, and I ordered the extra of the navy. I'm sure you're bored to tears really by now, but if you're still there, good. If you're not, I totally understand why. So the Mano sweater is an Isabel Kramer pattern, and it's knit from top down, and I'm sure everybody knows her patterns. They're absolutely beautiful. I really like this one because there's some colour work at the bottom. It's not just all stocking stitch, and it's something to look forward to. And well, there's not on the sleeves, but there may well be. Would be quite easy to put on the sleeves if I wanted to. So I knitted up using the navy. I put the navy into it and had done a few rows of the colour work, and really wasn't happy with it for the amount of effort that it was taken to do the colour work. It just wasn't showing up. I knew when I would come to the bottom of the sweater it really wouldn't be seen, and I thought, no, for the sake of, I think I was going to need four balls, and it's not terribly expensive, the Lottie yarn. I just thought I would go for it. So it came in, and I just have been letting it sit because of the COVID. I let everything sit for quite a while before I touch it or use it. So this is the cream that I purchased to replace the navy. And if you remember, the colour that I had is like it's like a beige type colour. So while the navy looked well with it when it was in the ball format, it most certainly didn't do anything for it when I started to put it into it. The Lottie yarn, it's really toothy, and it's quite hard, but once it's washed, it's beautiful. It softens really well, and the stitches were beautiful in the colour work. They're really, you know, because it was so toothy, it really stuck together well, and it's perfect for colour work. So I took it back to the, that's actually the back of it. I took it back to just where you start the colour work. There's a short row shaping in the back of it. This is the first of Isabel's patterns I've knit, and it's brilliant. The short rows, I'm pleased with them. I can't really see them myself, so hopefully you can't see them either. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I would like to maybe get a wee bit of work done on that over the weekend, depending on the weather, if it's too warm or not. And I can't knit it in bed because it is quite, you know, the wee hairs come on, the wee hairs come off it, and if they get into bed, they're itchy, so I can't knit it in bed. So it needs to be a project for the living room. Otherwise, we'll think we've got bed bugs. So yeah, that's how far I've got so far on the sweater, and I think the cream, it'll definitely add enough definition, and that's exactly what I wanted. So maybe the few hours knitting was wasted, but at least I have it now. I have it now the way I wanted it. So coming up next then, I'm going to cast on another pair of socks, hopefully for the summer sock camp. Well, I'm just putting them under that heading anyway, and I'm going to knit a little pair of jelly roll socks and use the goldfinch yarn that I had in my April sock club that I showed you. One of the podcast viewers, Debbie, hi Debbie, thanks for joining last night, and Cherie from Ollie and Bella also happened to have the same yarn, so we thought we would just all knit a pair of socks together, and that's one of the reasons why we actually went ahead, and why I went ahead and had the Zoom room, so that we could knit them together. So I really need to get mine cast on. The other girls have theirs on, and I'm lagging behind. I'm not a good host, am I? So yeah, those are just one of the other things that I'm going to put on the needles, but not until I have one of each of the other socks that are there now. At least the first pair I showed you, it definitely has to have this first sock finished. So that is just what's coming up next. The only other section then is what I usually call Postie, and last time there was quite a bit came in the post. This time there's not, and the only thing I did order was some needles. If you go to the Crazy Sock Lady's YouTube channel, she does a tutorial on how she weaves in her ends, and I think it's brilliant. I've started using it, and it's great, and it most certainly it doesn't make me feel that weaving in the ends are a chore anymore. But she recommended just to use the DMC 18 needles. The chenille needles, and I just ordered a set of them. The needles I have they're really chunky. I think they're more like darning needles than really fine enough. They don't have a particularly good point on them for the way that Kay does the weaving in at the end. So I just ordered a set of those, and that's all that came in the post. The June Sock Club hasn't arrived as yet, and when it does, I'll show it to you the next time. The other thing that I did order then was a book, and trying to think, did I write down? don't think I wrote down. Oh yes, there is a girl I follow on Instagram, K Creatives, and she has some beautiful paintings she does, and she has a great selection of highlights of books that she has read, and they're all they're sort of into, she likes the Amish style life. Some of her books are sort of based on Amish stories, and she also has some really good Christian sort of spiritual living, and this one here was entitled Spiritual Living in a Secular World. It's Life of the Beloved, and she had shared some quotes from it, and they really touched my heartstrings, and I got the name off her and I ordered it. It came as a second-hand book. It was only pennies via Amazon, and I have just started to read it and I am enjoying it so much. It's not a book you'll just read cover to cover. It's a book when you come across a quote and it speaks to you, that you'll really slow down and you'll really let it soak into your heart. It's a very personal book, I would say, and I would imagine everybody will take something different out of it. But so far, and with the quotes that have been shared, I've really enjoyed it, and I love having it now to work through. So it's written by Henry J.M. Moen. I'd never heard of him before, but the preface and the foreword is very good, and as I say, I'm really looking forward to getting into it in more depth. So that is the only other thing that I ordered. If you're interested in books and want to hear a great podcast that covers a section of crafting and a section of books, pop over to Sheep and Cheerful by Clara Poggerty on Instagram, and she always covers a great selection on books. Maybe not that particular genre, but if you want titles to read, she's your lady, and her podcast is brilliant. Her knitting and weaving and spinning's brilliant too. So that is all that Postie brought, and that just leaves me then the last little bit of chitter chatter. So it's going to be shorter this week, you'll be glad to know. So the last little bit of chitter chatter, I am going to put a wee video in at the end. It's only a couple of minutes. We were up at our son's, and I was out, and he milks electronically with robots, and I got some footage of it, and I thought I would share it with you. It's pretty amazing. I'll do a voiceover on it and share the details as I go along, and you might enjoy that. That'll be the farmy chat for today. The boys are really just we've had fantastic growing, and the grass here has been outstanding, so we've had a great opportunity to build up feed stuff for the winter time and be able to build it up slightly cheaper than if you had to go out and buy it. So that has been such a blessing. We've been using the weather to our advantage, and we're very thankful for that, because we'll need it come the winter time. So that's just an ongoing thing. If grass gets too far in advance for the cows to eat, then the boys cut it down and put it into bales and cover it with black plastic. Grass, when it gets to a certain stage, it starts to get quite hard, as it's called, and it sort of loses that juicy leaf, and while the cows still eat it, they don't graze particularly tidily, and they most certainly don't produce the same amount of milk on it, and then their feed has to be substituted with more purchased nuts and minerals, etc. So it becomes less cost effective. So it's important that we get the grass to the cows just at the right stage. So when it's cut down at the right stage, then it doesn't develop into this harder grass. So it is cost effective in cost effective in the long run. So there hasn't been much else really going on the farm this time of year when the boys are a bit freer. It's making little repairs for getting ready for the winter time. It's clearing out houses of the farmyard manure and getting it stored up for the winter time and getting it out onto the grass. So it's all the wee bits and bobs, Jessica, if you're watching, and odds and ends that we just get done. And sometimes I even get things done up at the house that I've been waiting patiently for, something like sweeping the yard, or helping me get the outside of the windows cleaned, all those type of things. So this time of the year I do enjoy, if I'm getting some things done. If I'm not, it's not so nice. I can be grumpy. So yeah, that's the farmy things. Then I just to finish off, I want to say thank you to anybody that's come along to our Zoom meeting on a Thursday night. It's 8 p.m. British Standard Time. I'm going to add the Zoom room number to the podcast here. You need to download the Zoom app, and it's available for desktop, Android and iOS. And then you put in the number that I am going to put on the screen. And then if you direct message me, then I'll send you the password for it. And that's the way we have been working it so far, and it has worked quite well. Don't let the password put you off. It's just I think it's a good idea. Just you just know who's coming into the room, and I think it's a good way to keep it, just to keep things in order and keep it for people that we know and people that know each other. So I'll put the link or the reminder rather up on Instagram next week, and hopefully we'll see some more there at 8 o'clock British Standard Time next Thursday evening. We don't have a big number, but we had really good fun last night, and sometimes when there's too many, it's hard just for everybody to get their conversation in. So it was really good, and the time flew. I was given more than the 45-minute curfew by Zoom, so I think it was maybe 10 to 10 before we finished up. And it's lovely to see people that say that they follow, and it's lovely to chat with some other girls that are podcasting. And I think last night everybody had good fun. My husband, he was wondering what the giggles were, so if you can hear the giggles from my little room in the kitchen, you can get a feel for what it was like. And everybody was doing a bit of knitting or just listening or chattering away. So it would be really good if more people came along and popped in even to say hello. It's worthwhile. So I'm doing it again next week, and we'll see how long. It might be something that's just going to go on a regular basis. So that is the Zoom room. The only other thing I've jotted down here just was the COVID situation. Thankfully here and in the mainland, and I think throughout the world, in a lot of places, the regulations are relaxing a little. I know America at the moment and some other countries, things are looking a bit more anxious in particular states and things. They have maybe been out of their lockdown a little longer than here, so we don't know exactly what way it's going to go with the restrictions being eased. But we're looking forward to being able to maybe be out and about a wee bit more. Not that we're going to change our routine, but it was amazing. 2 weeks ago we got to see one set of our grandchildren for the first time in the 12 or 13, probably maybe we didn't see those two grandchildren from Christmas actually, because they live quite a bit away, and the weather was good and we got outside into the garden, and we had a blast just with the ball. We barbecued outside. Everybody was able to keep their distance, and it was just lovely. It was so special to see them. And then on Sunday past we got to see our other grandchildren, and normally we would see them see them maybe more. And while I seen them every day on WhatsApp, it was strange just not meeting them. And actually when they came, it was quite strange to meet them. It was wet at the beginning of their visit and we had to sort of stay indoors. So we have a lounge down, a floor, and our sunroom's a step up. So we were able to organise the seating that Andrea and I were able to stay in the upper part, and the children, our daughter and son-in-law, stayed down lower. So we were able to maintain the social distancing. And then we actually got out for a walk and got a play in the garden, so that was really, really good. I did share I got some lovely letters from them, and they were sealed with a kiss and glitter, and I have them inside my Bible, and they're really, really very special to me. We were able to organise some tea and managed social distancing there too. And the hardest part actually was when everybody went to go home, and normally you have a hug and a kiss, and the children at the age of 5 and 2 were able to just say, "Nana, I'll blow you a kiss." And I thought it's just wonderful how children adapt to every situation that you give them. And I must admit that brought a tear to my eye, but I was so thankful that we were able to see them and have some time with them. And now the restrictions are easing, we might be able to go and visit. We'll see just how it goes. You don't want to make anyone anxious, and particularly if someone has to shield, you have to be very careful. Shielding regulations are in place to the 31st of July, so we want to respect that as well. So that's been the highlights of the last couple of weeks, and I hope that you've had an opportunity maybe to meet some of your family or friends that you were isolated from this COVID-19 came in, and that you've had the joy that I had of meeting them. And I do hope that you've had lots of time to do a bit of crafting and enjoy your weekend coming up now, whatever you decide to do, be it out visiting or gardening or just knitting or sewing, weaving, whatever your craft might be. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you enjoy what you get to do, and I will see you all again very soon. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the little video at the end here. And it would be really good again if I could see you on Zoom and be able to say hello and meet you that way. So keep safe, enjoy your weekend, and bye for now. So this is the robotic milking machine that I was talking about, and the cow has come into the unit here at the moment, and you can see the arm that is in there is actually washing and sanitizing the teats before it puts on the milking clusters. And this is really important because you don't want anything getting into the milking line that would cause contamination, which would result in an entire tank of milk that would be collected being turned down by the company that's purchasing it, and that would be terrible. So at the minute now, the machine is taking the clusters in underneath the cow, which is just 4 pulsation units, and it is using lasers to find the position of the teats to attach these units on. It just takes a wee minute to find them. The unit is completely set up that each cow that comes in wears an electronic collar, and it is programmed from the main computer to tell how much meal should the cow get. Cows are usually fed per yield, so each cow is given a different amount depending on the yield they're giving. So it's all very computerized, and it does save time for the farmer, but a lot of the time he still needs to be around to make sure that everything is working. So the clusters are being put on here at the moment. the milk has started to come out into this silicone tube lining and up into the computerized screen part of the milking robot. Here you can see a screen presentation of the 4 quarters on the cow, which is starting at left front, left rear, and right front. The white that you see is the milk coming into the unit from each cluster, and it records the speed that the milk is being let down. It records the volume, and it also gives a lot of other information in behind the scenes. But really what you want to see here is the 4 vials filling up evenly with milk in a very reasonable amount of time. You don't want a cow taking a long time to milk. So here you can see it's cow's almost finished, and that is how the milk is taken from a cow using a robotic milking machine.